What do Presidents George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton, golf champion Tiger Woods, and actor James Earl Jones all have in common? They all purchased suits manufactured right here in Baltimore from a hometown business, Haas Clothiers. It is not surprising dignitaries would come to Charm City to buy their clothing. After all, Baltimore was known as a city that tries to suit everybody. Baltimore was one of the top 5 U.S. centers for the production of clothing in the early 20th century. During World War I, it employed more workers than Bethlehem Steel. How did Baltimore get started in this business? In the 19th century, visiting sailors purchased slops, loose-fitting, one-size-fits-all clothing, handmade and affordable. During the Civil War, Baltimore produced uniforms for both the North and the South, fitting for a state that bordered the Mason-Dixon line. These were the first standard sizes. After the war, demand for off-the-rack clothing grew. By the end of the 19th century, small shops, often located in East Baltimore row houses, hired workers to assemble men's garments. Pay was low in these sweatshops, and conditions were miserable. Gradually, work shifted to loft buildings in downtown Baltimore, where large companies used modern machines and employed more than 3,000 workers. As you step into our garment loft, you will see a typical cutting table. Cutting tables could be 100 feet long and have as many as 80 layers of cloth. Cutters outlined the pattern on the fabric using tailor's chalk. They cut out each part of a garment using large shears. 2 pairs of these shears are on the sewing machines behind the cutting table. The invention of the vertical shear, the silver machine with the maroon band, made it possible to cut out large quantities at once. It wasn't unusual to use 6,000 yards of material each day. For the next step, pieces were sent to the sewing room where as many as 400 operators sewed the suit together. Using an assembly line, an operator sewed one seam and passed the garment on. They could make 7,000 woolen suits a week. By 1900, electric sewing machines were replacing foot-powered treadle machines. We have both machines in our gallery. The mural behind the sewing machines shows the workers at Katzenberg Brothers creating the Mary Garden line of ladies' apparel. In 1933, Mary Garden was a popular opera singer. Just like today, product endorsements were an important sales strategy. The other mural shows the Henry Sonneborn clothing factory in 1910. More than half of the workers were women, mostly young girls. They earned meager wages, generally between $6 to $8 a week. Cutting, designing, and pattern making were skilled positions and available only to men who made over $20 a week. The only time that women were allowed to have skilled jobs was during World War I, when the men went off to war. Recycling is not an exclusive 21st century idea. The bin found at the end of the cutting table contains buttons made out of oyster shells from Baltimore canneries. Close to the button bin is a counter with irons. The early irons were placed on stoves to heat. Later, gas irons and then electric irons were used. Pressing machines completed the process. Conditions were rough. Windows were kept closed even in the summer so that the fabric wouldn't be soiled by the soot in the air. Workers brought their lunches in metal pails to keep out bugs, rats, and mice. Factory life was hard. 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, no benefits, no complaints. To help ease working conditions, labor unions vied for membership in the early 1900s. The United Garment Workers of America, UGW, represented skilled workers and was considered a craft union. The Amalgamated Clothing Workers of America, ACW, was open to all and was especially appealing to new immigrants. In 1916, both unions came to blows in what became known as the Battle of the Scissors. In order to produce more uniforms for the war, new immigrants were hired. They joined the ACW, and some were even trained as cutters. Cutters from the UGW tried to physically block the new cutters from the 9th floor cutting room at Sonneborn's factory. Blackjacks, iron knuckles, and clothing shears were used as weapons, and the riot police were summoned. Fighting spilled out into the street, and 12 men were arrested. Eventually, the ACW won out. Starting in the 1920s, clothing production in the area declined, and eventually manufacturing shifted to other locations. So, where do we stand today? Most companies have closed or moved offshore. Smoothie Ties is gone. Beeler and Gans umbrellas, gone. Haas Clothiers was bought out and moved. Baltimore never regained its position in the clothing business. A few recognized clothing manufacturers remain. Under Armour has offices in Baltimore. 180s and Maryland Clothing Manufacturing produce clothing for the military. Today, the Baltimore Garment District has been transformed into an area of loft apartments and condos. Theaters, restaurants, and retailers are populating the area. Baltimore remains a city that suits everyone, but in a different way, perhaps more suitable for the 21st century.